Every other year, Disney hosts D23. They tag it as the ultimate fan event. And during D23, it's a 3 day conference and they make all sorts of announcements, a lot about movies, upcoming movies, things like that. All the big shocker news usually is saved for D23. Now, in the years they don't have D23, they have a D23 Destinations, which is smaller and doesn't get as much coverage. So, with this new D23 coming up, rumors are running rampant, and of course, I have some ideas and suggestions, predictions, and hopes of my own. So that's what we're going to be talking about. D23 is planned to take place on the 14th, 15th, and 16th of August, this August. Now, the big event that most park fans are looking forward to is happening on the Saturday. It's on Saturday evening, they're hosting a Horizons event. Now, a few years ago, this is where they announced all the stuff happening in Disneyland Paris. And, among other things, of course, but of course, our emphasis is going to be on Disneyland Paris. This is where we learned about the Lion King land. This is where Josh D'Amaro, then still head of Parks and Experiences, declared that everything that was announced was already underway and would be done within 5 years. So for this year, people are expecting more of an update on all the stuff that was announced back then. Josh D'Amaro has since been promoted to CEO of the Walt Disney Company, so he's not going to be doing this part. His replacement, Thomas Mazloum, isn't hosting either. That job is going to go to Neil Patrick Harris. Yes, that guy from How I Met Your Mother. He has been a known Disney fan for a very long time, and there could be more to him being a host, but we'll get to that in a moment when we get to the actual rumors. But first, hi, I'm Sarah. This is Factor Nostalgia, the podcast that covers everything theme park then, now, and when, focusing on, our own nostalgia and creating future memories so we have more nostalgia to look back on. If this is the type of content that you like to hear and you would like to hear more of it, you could consider supporting the podcast by becoming a Patreon member or a patron, if you will. All the links to do so are in the show notes. There are several options if you do want to become a Patreon subscriber, even a free tier. The others ask for a small monthly monetary contribution that helps me keep the podcast alive. So it helps me out with things like hosting costs, software needed to do remote recordings, and things like that. You are not paying for my theme park trips, I promise you that. Each tier comes with its own perks. All that information is available on the Patreon website. So again, check it out in the show notes. And for now, we're going to get back to our D23 predictions and rumors. So how about we just dive right in with the rumor train, huh? We're going to do the international. Okay, that doesn't make sense for me to say international parks and then refer to American parks. So for context, I'm located in continental Europe. So my home park is Disneyland Paris. We're saving that part for last. We're going to focus on all the other Disney parks first with the rumors that they have coming out. First up, Walt Disney World in Florida. Now, the Magic Kingdom has been working hard on Villains Land. This was announced back in 2024, and at the time, we didn't have a lot of detail, obviously, and things have changed over the past couple of months. I did a quick review of what we knew up until that point a couple weeks, months ago, months, um, for looking ahead at what could possibly be in Disney Adventure World's future in Paris. So there's a little bit of a recap there. What we could be expecting, though, this D23 is possibly a little bit more detail on what type of rides to expect, what villains are getting which themes, which types of rides, because there's been rumors about a dinner show, different types of coasters. First, it was going to be Maleficent, then it was going to be Yzma from The Emperor's New Groove. So there's a lot of options here. There could be a spinner ride based on Ursula from The Little Mermaid. So there's a lot for them to either confirm, deny, announce, things like that, and maybe also an opening date, maybe even, or an opening window. A date might be too much to ask for. Also in Magic Kingdom, they are building Piston Peak, which is an expansion in the Cars Land, Cars area, which is a part of their Frontierland. Of course, people have strong opinions on this, as they always do. But truth be told, from what the work Disney Imagineering has done before on Cars themed areas, with the exception of Cars Road Trip that we have in Paris, they did a really good job and it looked really good. So we're expecting an update here on the type of ride we can expect or rides we can expect. Perhaps an update on the rumored off road rally coaster, and a second more family friendly ride. So that would mean two new rides in that area of Magic Kingdom alone, which is a lot. And that hurts a little. Well, no, I'm happy for Magic Kingdom, but at the same time, it hurts a little bit when I look at our Castle Park. But again, we're going to get to that. Then finally, Space Mountain in Magic Kingdom. Yes, even there, Space Mountain might need a little bit of work. So there is a rumor that's been gaining momentum that this ride is going under for a full retrack and a new load and queue system. So this could be a good candidate for mention here at D23, because if they do this, it's going to mean a long closure for Space Mountain. And if they want to soften that blow, then they need to come up with something good to announce that's going to come back for it. So this is probably the best venue to do that. Moving on to Epcot. Here we are also dealing with some very persistent rumors about Spaceship Earth getting an overhaul. Might be some new narration there, some modernized scenes, a reworked finale, you name it. And this is where we get back to Neil Patrick Harris. There is a rumor. I don't know how much weight it has, how much we should actually, um, reinforce this, but that Neil Patrick Harris could appear as a new dream finder tied to a refresh of Journey into Imagination. I don't know how realistic this is. Maybe this was even just launched into the stratosphere to build momentum and build hype around Neil Patrick Harris hosting this thing. I don't know. I don't know how realistic this is. Also, I don't know how I feel about it. I don't have any super deep memories with Journey into Imagination as some other people have. So I have no strong opinions on the matter, but I would love to know what you think. Okay, so that's for Walt Disney World. Then moving on to the Asian parks. Shanghai Disneyland has been working on a Spider Man themed coasters or land, as well as a fourth hotel. Now, we don't know anything yet about the theming or the level of luxury that we can expect from this hotel. But for the coaster part, allegedly, they're already pretty well underway. Now, there's also a very persistent rumor that we've addressed before that they might announce a second gate for Shanghai Disneyland under the codename Project Atlas. Again, I don't know if this is how true this is and how far along they would be if they are working on a second gate. So even if it is true, it could be that they're still saving it for a future D23, for example. Who knows? Tokyo might be giving an opening date or an opening window for their new Space Mountain because, as we've mentioned before, they tore down their still popular Space Mountain because they thought this is old and we can do better, which is definitely a choice, a good one, I think. So we might get some information there. Other than that, I'm not expecting too much. But, if I'm missing out on anything, please do let me know in the comments or through any of the ways you can contact me in the show notes. Now, on to the part that we really want to know about Disneyland Paris. Okay, so just to set the scene here, Disneyland Paris' second gate was reimagined as Disney Adventure World. So that opened on March 29th of this year. It had World of Frozen as its main thing when it reopened. But we also already knew that Lion King Land was coming. That is as of yet unnamed. We know that there's a third land as well. There are different rumors about it. I made an episode on that. I'll link to it in the show notes. The strongest rumor is Pandora World of Avatar. I'm not a fan, but we'll see what happens. Since all this happened, we also saw some leadership changes within the Walt Disney Company. So at the time, Josh D'Amaro was already announced as CEO of the company, which means that, as mentioned earlier, Thomas Mazloum took his place as the head of president of Parks and Experiences. Natasha Rafalski, who was the president of Disneyland Paris, has also moved on to a new role since then. And the new president of Disneyland Paris is Christophe Murphy. Does that really impact their long term planning? Probably not a whole lot, but there might be some, little tweaks here and there in the planning. So, first up, the Lion King land. Now, they've already been building, we've seen the images, we've seen the test drop, we've seen all these things. The construction walls in Disney Adventure World are themed to the Lion King, so they're doing that really well. It's really very cute. But what we're expecting here definitely is really a substantial update since they are so far along. Maybe they have a new model for the area. maybe have some new concept art. Maybe they have a reveal of one of the animatronics that they're going to be using. Maybe some more details on the restaurant that they're going to be opening. Things like that. Now, as far as we know, they're only sticking one ride in that land, much like they did with World of Frozen. It would be great if they could announce a couple of filler rides because while Disney Adventure World has doubled in footprint in terms of size, that doesn't mean that in terms of capacity it grew as much because we only got two new rides so far. World of Frozen, no, in World of Frozen we got Frozen Ever After, and along Adventure Way we got Rapunzel's Tangled Spin, and we're also getting the up swinging carousel situation thing. For that, we already know it's opening in 2027. We've seen updated artwork. We know it's going to be called Wilderness Explorers Sky Swing. So, I'm not expecting much on that front. Maybe a more particular opening window or opening date, even. But other than that, it's not a showstopper. This ride. I don't want to be disrespectful, but it's just not. Even though the theming looks great, it's not the one that we're all excited about. That would be the Lion King. So across the way from the Lion King area, we have an open lot sitting there. So again, there's been a bunch of rumors as to what land is going to be here. I think if they really want to make a splash, they announce something here. On the other hand, I feel like it might be too soon because, Disney has been known to pivot in terms of is something popular enough, yes or no. So this could be, you know, just a little bit too soon to announce a third land. Would be nice if they did. And it would be nice if it's not Pandora World of Avatar. Yeah, I said it. Now, what we could also expect in terms of announcements around Disneyland Paris next year will be its 35th anniversary. So it would be nice if we could see something about the anniversary plans that they have. And hopefully it'll go a little bit further than, a little bit of merch and a shortbread cookie. In my perfect world, they would bring back a nighttime show prior to the fireworks show. I don't know if that's too much of a wishful thinking type of thing, but it would be great. And it might also help with crowd control during the nighttime shows in the main park, in the castle park, because that is a mess. Like 2 hours before the nighttime show, you can't even really walk around Main Street anymore because people are like keeping spots and putting jackets down and, putting their sleeping kids in the middle of the road because they wanted to see the show, even though the kids are dead tired. All of that, I think, would be helped by a nighttime parade or something of the sort. Plus, we've talked about this before on an episode about all the different nighttime shows that Disney has had in the past. That there has been sort of a trend where we get some parades that have been successes in other parks. Walt Disney World has for a while now had its Starlight Nighttime Parade. I think that would look really pretty on our main street. I'm just saying. Of course, the big one that we're all hoping for, all Disneyland Paris diehards are hoping for an announcement around our Discovery Land because this part of the park has been in need of some love. Can I say it like that? It has been in need of some love. Of course, the big one here is Space Mountain, which is starting to, we're really starting to feel its age. And it's been down for refurbishments for quite a couple times now already, some longer closures even, but it's still very bumpy. Plus, the Star Wars overlay, Hyperspace Mountain, it was supposed to be temporary. It's been there since 2017. While I would love to have an update on this on during this D23, I don't want to be too hopeful. I don't want to get my hopes up too much. However, there have been some rumors, there have been some reports out here saying that it's facing a 2-year refurbishment, which will probably be a retrack and probably a retheme as well. I don't know how true this is, but I sincerely hope it happens. 2 years is a long time, yes. But if what we get back in return is a fresh Space Mountain that has its own theming back, we're gonna go back to the moon, bring back the moon, a new, fresh, dedicated soundtrack. I would love that so much, and I think it would give the park a badly needed impulse because as beautiful as our park is, as beautiful as our castle park is, it does need some love. So, some things are starting to look and feel outdated, and you don't want that. Now, what could be the real big one that they announced for Disneyland Paris? We've talked about it in a couple of episodes already. So, Disneyland Paris, when it was first set up, they bought up all this land or they had deals with the government about all this land that they had to develop. One of which is by 2036 or when they hit 22 million visitors annually, either or, whichever one comes first, they have to announce a third park. Now, we're only in 2026. It may be a little bit early, but we have seen some work happening on the edges of the land. There have been some electrical boxes being installed. We have seen them working on a berm, what is essential for Disneyland's sightlines. So who knows? We might actually start hearing a little bit more about a possible third gate. While again, I think it's too early, but there is a very, there's a small group of people who are saying, well, maybe. And this group seems to be growing. So, what do I know? I'm not an insider in any capacity, but what do you think? Is it too early to announce a third park if they still have a ways to go until they hit 22 million? Because they did just expand the other park. I feel like there's enough to do in the meantime before they announce this third park. While they still have some time, I think it's good to also keep in mind that Universal is opening their park in the UK in 2031. And even before that, Puy de Fou is opening a park in 2029. This will also be in the UK. And on the one hand, yeah, it's a whole different type of park because Puy de Fou is more focused on shows and everything than attractions. It's still worth keeping it in mind because opening Puy de Fou and then opening Universal in the UK might make for a multi-day trip and might make it worthwhile for international travelers as well, and that could be taking away from Disneyland Paris's part of the market, so they do need to ramp up. Now, I talked a lot about the likelihood of things, but my top three things that I want to hear about: opening window for Lion King Land, announcement for the third land in Disney Adventure World, and some love for Discovery Land because that has been long overdue. Space Mountain, when it first opened, saved Euro Disneyland, or Disneyland Paris as it's known now. It really did. So we can't just let it go to waste like this. So, as mentioned, the showcase is happening on August 15th. After D23 is over, I will do a recap with all the announcements that we heard, not just the parks, but I'll also include some of the stuff on the movies because I'm hoping there will be no more live action remakes. I know there are going to be sequels. There kind of have to be because that's just what they do at this point. And, sequels I can sort of live with, even though it's not, super exciting. But I'm hoping for no live action remakes. We shall see. I will do a recap on that after D23. It might not be immediately after. I kind of have to check my planning and my schedule because, yeah, life. But before that time, I will definitely be posting about it on Instagram. So follow along at Factor Nostalgia if you don't want to miss that. And also, if you want to join in on the discourse, because, there's going to be opinions and things, and I would love to hear your thoughts. But before then, what are your top predictions or even hopes, wishful thinking? You name it. What are you hoping that they'll announce at D23 when it comes to the parks? And of course, again, my main focus is Disneyland Paris, but other park predictions are welcome too. So this was a bit of a brief one. If you have missed it, this episode is late because I had some audio troubles this week. So, hopefully those are resolved now. But I appreciate you bearing with me and giving this episode a listen. So thank you very much for that. Share this episode with somebody who might be interested. Make sure you leave a rating or a review, and also make sure you are subscribed so you don't miss any future episodes, like, for example, my D23 recap. All right, with that, thank you very much for listening, and I'll catch you in the next one.